Guten Tag, mein Name ist Herr Wallace und das hier ist mein Klassenzimmer. Heute lernen wir ein bisschen Deutsch. Sind Sie bereit? Gut, dann lass uns anfangen. I'm going to do this in English a little bit for those of you who may not be as familiar with German as you'd like to be. And since we are talking about some basic German conjugation concepts, it might be a good move for us. So let's talk about today weak verb conjugation. On the board here I've written several weak verbs. Now there are many types of verbs in German. There are weak verbs, there are strong verbs, there are separable verbs, and there are inseparable verbs. And we'll get to some of those concepts later. But today I just want to concentrate on weak verbs. Now weak verbs, always, all verbs really in German, end in either en or in. And today I've written 4 weak verbs up here. The first verb we're going to deal with is lernen. Lernen means to learn. And I have a formula for learning weak verbs. And it's really very simple. The formula is S1010. And as I explain this, you'll see how I came up with it. First of all, what we're going to do is with any German verb that we get in its infinitive form, we're going to take the en off. Now what we're left with is called the root of the verb. And to this root, we're going to add our endings. So I always tell kids, if we're conjugating for these pronouns, I, ich, you, du, that's the informal you, he, she, sie, or it, es, and these are all grouped together because the conjugations are the same for all 3 of these. Wir means we, ihr means you all, or y'all, and sie, polite you, formal you, and sie meaning they. And again, these are grouped together because the conjugations are always the same for them. So let's start, first of all, by writing the root of our verb 6 times. In this case, lernen. Lernen, 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 and lernen. Okay. Now what we're going to do is for each one of these, we're going to add our endings. And here's where S1010 comes in. If you want to say it, for example, I learn or I am learning, you simply add an E to lernen. Ich lerne means I am learning or I learn. Du lernst means you are learning or you learn. Lernt, he is learning or he learns. Wir lernen, we are learning. Ihr lernt, y'all are learning. And sie und sie lernen. So as you can see, our endings are S1010. And I tell my students that if you know that, you'll be able to conjugate any weak verb. There are always a few tricks, but for the most part, this works for most of the weak verbs. Another example is spielen. Spielen means to play. So for example, if we take our same theory, we drop the en, we're left with the root of the verb, spiel. So we're going to write that 6 times. Spiel, spiel, spiel. And I apologize for my handwriting. And we're going to add the endings appropriate to the pronouns. Ich spiele, I am playing. Du spielst, spielt. Wir spielen, ihr spielt, und sie spielen. Once again, that's 10-10. Now another trick or a possible pitfall is if you have a verb where you take the en off and the verb ends in a T or a D. Now this is a special case in German because now we have to change our S1010. In fact, for the do, for the zes, and for the ear, we're going to stick with our S1010, but for these, we're going to have to add an extra E. So if we say, for example, I am working, that stays the same. I write the root of the verb arbeit, and I add an E. Ich arbeite means I am working. Du arbeitest. And here is where we had to make a change. We had the ST, but we had to add an extra E. Why? Because when we drop the en off the infinitive of the verb, if the verb ends in a T or D, we have to add that extra E there. He is working. Arbeitet. Again, here we have our extra E and our T. Wir arbeiten. Ihr arbeitet. Und sie arbeiten. So, here we have our en, and our T, and again for the ear, we had to add an extra E. So that's just one trick. Now that also works, I said, if you take the en off and it ends in a t or d, the root of the verb, or if you take the en off in our final verb here, öffnen, which means to open. If we take the en off, we have it ending in an n, but preceded by two consonants. When that's the case, we do the same thing that we did over here. We're going to add an extra e in the do, the RZS, and the ear forms. For example, ich öffne. That's pretty regular. We're just adding the e. Du öffnest. Here we had to have that extra e. Öffnet. Wir öffnen. Ihr öffnet. Und Sie öffnen. And that basically is how you conjugate weak verbs, along with the two tricks. Remember, that is basically as 10-10. But if the root of the verb ends in a T or a D, or if it ends in an N preceded by two consonants, you're going to have to add that extra E in the do, the RZS, and the ear forms. I hope this has been helpful. Auf Wiedersehen.